massive turnover for the Liberal Party. Mark Carney is all set to win the Canadian elections. The final numbers are still coming in. Whether it would be a complete majority for the Liberals or they would need smaller parties to form the government, that still remains unclear. On the other hand, Jagmeet Singh and his party, National Democratic Party, have been completely wiped out, failing to secure even the minimum 12 seats that are required to qualify as a national party in Canada. Khalistan sympathiser Jagmeet conceded defeat and stepped down from NDP's leadership. Remember, this Canadian election has been very different from the country's earlier polls. It's a rare occasion when Canadians have voted on a foreign policy issue, this time centred around Donald Trump. The US president, remember, has time and again called Canada the 51st state of America, something that Canadian leadership has refuted.
America wants our land, our resources, our water, our country. Never. But these are not idle threats. President Trump is trying to break us so that America can own us. That will never ever happen. But we also must recognize the reality that our world has fundamentally changed.
Now remember, all eyes are on Republican President Donald Trump's response to Mark Carney's victory. Before voting in Canada, in a Truth Social post, Trump had urged Canadians to give up their sovereignty and become the 51st state of United States. In fact, he also said that there will be zero tariff and taxes if Canada does become the 51st state of United States. As for India, remember that Canada had accused India of Khalistani Hardeep Nijjar's killing, a charge that India has completely denied, and which led to diplomatic ties being their lowest under the Justin Trudeau administration. Let's try and decode this entire Canadian election for you. On the broadcast, I'm joined by Dean Baxendale. He's an international publisher and columnist joining us from Canada. I'm also joined by Pathikrit Payne, Geopolitical Analyst. Good evening and namaskar to both of you. Dean Baxendale, to you first. How does it feel? What is happening in Canada with the Liberal Party and its massive turnover of this election? This was initially unexpected, but, over a period of time, polls did indicate that the Liberals might take away this election.
Yes, it's an incredible day for Canada on so many different fronts, and we don't have enough time to get into all of them, of course. We saw a collapse of the Conservative support that was in the areas where Liberals were going to move towards the party. This would be in cosmopolitan centers from Montreal to Toronto to Vancouver. And the Liberals and the offering from Mark Carney, his pivot to the center, allowed the offering to come through, along with him simply being pragmatic in axing the carbon tax, which was a huge factor in people's pocketbooks and their decision making, and of course the Donald Trump factor and the 51st state, which he looked like the more likely statesman to take on Donald Trump in this battle. So I think Canadians wake up with a much different country. For the first time since 1930, we have the two major parties, the Conservatives and the Liberals, garnering over 85%, 87% of the vote. So this is a change election. Jagmeet Singh is gone. Thank goodness for that. I can't suggest, I think Jagmeet did a lot of great things for the progressive left. However, he was a negative factor in many ways in Canadian politics, and especially around the issue around Khalistan and separatism and the Sikh separatist state. So I think this is a great opportunity for Canada to forge new relationships with India and with the United States, with the right leadership, but recognizing that, yes, the world has indeed changed. The geopolitical landscape has changed, and we need to be very, very smart and deft in terms of our process and how we collaborate with our partners.
Sure. Before I get Pathikrit Payne into this conversation, Dean, I also want to understand from you how Canadians place their trust in Mark Carney and the Liberals when it comes to countering Donald Trump. As soon as Trump was sworn in, I think this election changed and it went in favor of the Liberals. What is it that worked for the Liberals? What is it that they promised Canadians, and Canadians placed their faith in the Liberal Party and Mark Carney that they will be able to overcome the challenges that Trump has been throwing at Canada one after the other?
Well, interestingly enough, they really haven't pivoted that much from their original platform under Justin Trudeau. However, what they did under Mark Carney's leadership, and clearly he has the pedigree, international pedigree. He is the smartest guy in the room, oftentimes, and he understands the world economics, the flow of money, and ultimately everyone knows that money drives the economy. And so I think when Canadians were looking at the Liberals now under the leadership of Mark Carney, that it was clear that they felt that he and the Liberals could offer that foil to Donald Trump versus Pierre Poilievre, who had been a lifetime politician, 22 years in the job. But unfortunately, once the populist sort of axe the tax, consumer-driven offerings to the public dissipated, and it was now an existential crisis for Canada's identity, we now had people moving to the Liberals. This happened in Quebec. Quebecers who had voted for separation before, all of a sudden flocked to the Liberals, and it was Quebec, indeed, that helped move the fate towards 168 seats. Still not a majority. So Mark Carney should take this vote. The understanding that we have about 43% for the Conservatives in popular vote, and suggest that we need to work together to build our nation, to build a strong and free Canada, and to buffet America's proclivities to make us the 51st state.
Okay. Pathikrit, one of the biggest takeaways from this Canadian election result has been the complete annihilation of Jagmeet Singh and his NDP. In fact, even leading to the fact that they will be losing their national party status, really reflecting the kind of, significance, or rather not so significant status that now Khalistani sympathizers hold in Canada. Just as Justin Trudeau went away, you've got Jagmeet Singh losing the election and losing it so badly.
Well, Shreya, you're right. There was a terribly bad phase so far as Indo-Canadian relationship is concerned during the Trudeau phase, especially in the last 10 years. But I think India would still be very cautiously optimistic. It will be optimistic because it hopes that the present regime, which will be coming to power, will be far more pragmatic and look into the concerns of India. But it will be cautious in terms of the fact that in the last, say, 30, 35 years, on many issues, there is somewhere a bipartisan consensus within, Canadian politics that when it comes to the 1985 bombing or many other issues, we haven't seen much of a crackdown on the Khalistanis or the secessionist movements that had their origin in Canada and are directed at India. So far as this government of Mark Carney is concerned, look, the Liberals had almost lost the election had it not been for Trump factor coming in and galvanizing the entire country and literally forgetting what Trudeau has done. So it has to be seen what Carney does and what he does will be different from the traditional approach of the Liberal Party, which has generally been pro-Khalistan. So whether it is whether it is the issue of Carney's relation with or Canada's relation with India or with United States, I think both the countries will wait and watch. It doesn't mean that Carney's problems with United States have got sorted out. Trump will still keep on saying what he wants from Canada, and he would keep on creating problems. So far as India is concerned, look, we hope and we look forward to a good relation with Canada. But will they have a crackdown on organized crime syndicates? Will they have a crackdown on the number of people that take on the pretext of political asylum who have terrible law and order record in India? So unless those things get sorted out, I don't think just because the dispensation is different within the same political party, India will be overtly, happy and optimistic. So it's a wait and watch policy. But yes, when it comes to NDP and its loss, it is an indication of the fact that within Canada itself, people are getting frustrated by what this gentleman or the people with his kind of ideology has been propagating, has been doing. He may or may not be able to, or rather he may not be able to do anything so far as India's integrity is concerned. But whatever he has been doing was and is seriously creating problem for Canada's internal security. That is for sure. And this is an election where voting has been in terms of frustration as well. So NDP not getting the adequate vote itself means a lot number of Sikh population itself did not vote for NDP. It is a good step forward. Whether Mark Carney can read these indications and understanding and take it forward in a different way, in a more pragmatic way, in terms of ensuring that India's integrity and sovereignty is respected, that has to be seen. If not,
yeah, which was what my next question to Dean Baxendale was. Dean Baxendale, yes, it is a wait-and-watch game as far as the Indo-Canadian ties are concerned. Mark Carney, of course, has, time and again reiterated that he wants to reset ties with India after, whatever happened under the Justin Trudeau government. But with NDP losing and Jagmeet Singh losing, they've conceded defeat. Do you think that they now might try a lot of other ways to stay significant in Canadian politics? And can the Liberal Party then sort of distance themselves from the influence of the NDP?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think that Canadians have spoken, and that is that, this changes the landscape no matter how you look at it. And, I think that your other guest made this very, very clear in terms of Canada having finally to figure out what it's going to do with diaspora communities that are inside this country, some of whom are facilitating separatist actions inside India and other countries. We need to get on top of this and address this. And I think that what this speaks to is a recognition that Canada as a nation and our values and who we are is what we now need to stand for. We need to unite the country together, conservatives, liberals, and move the country together. I think that the isolationist, Sikh separatist movement in Canada will wane, as it will not have support by various members who were certainly sympathetic to the cause, both in the Liberal and Conservative Party. So I think there's a great opportunity for Prime Minister Modi and the Indian government to work closely with Canada in forging, this strong alliance. We have the largest Indo population outside of India in the world, with over 3 million. We have Sikhs, we have Hindus, we have Muslims, we have everybody from India. This is a great nation. We need to bring those people together, and we need to fight for Canada, fight for our values, and dissipate and push back against these other actions that are not helping our relationship with India in the future. There's a great opportunity here. I think we need to forge that. I'll be speaking to that in my column this Sunday in the Sunday Guardian. And I think that, yes, there's great opportunity here to push back against the Sikh separatist movement in Canada.
Right. Pathikrit, then how do you see this moving forward? Yes, we have to wait and watch. But of course, a large part of this onus lies on the new Canadian government that is formed to take forward their ties with India. One of the dominant issues, of course, would be Khalistan and the sympathizers. But what more do you think could come up in the bilateral relations between the two countries now?
Good question, Shreya. One of the best barometer to look at whether India now is far more confident with Canadian policy is whether the diplomatic staff of Canadian embassy in India is allowed to be increased from the present number of somewhere around 22 or not. That will be a very good barometer. Secondly, there are many areas, I agree with Dean, there are many areas of cooperation and convergence between India and Canada. There are opportunities. A lot of Indians have got success in Canada. But at the same time, it all depends upon the kind of people who are given visa to go to Canada. If that doesn't change, then nothing will change. Secondly, there are geopolitical changes happening world over. You see, there's a conflict-like situation between India and Pakistan. What India would be interested also to see what stand Canada takes on various issues, on issue of BRICS, on issue of United Nations reform, on issues of Indo-Pakistan conflict-like situation, and whether countries like Canada come out and vociferously condemn what Pakistan has done. If that doesn't happen, then probably today may not be the day that India will start celebrating because Mark Carney has won. Yes, Canadian election, fine. In their country, they can do whatever they want. but the barometers are very clear when it comes to whether you take care of the interest of India or not. Generally, countries like India have always stayed away from interfering in the affair of other countries, but it has often not been reciprocated by the Western countries, including Canada. That is a grudge many countries like India, which are emerging powerhouses, have. Whether that is addressed or not just by Canada, but other Western countries as well, that has to be seen. Back to you.
Yeah. So it's a cautious approach that India will take. But for now, of course, Canadians celebrating that Liberal Party victory. Dean, thank you very much for joining us on the broadcast. Pathikrit, to you as well. Thank you very much to both of you for joining us and sharing your perspective on this big victory of the Liberal Party once again in the Canadian elections. For India, of course, it's a cautious approach, a wait-and-watch game of how the new government takes forward its ties with India. This is it in this broadcast. Thank you very much for joining us this evening. News and updates will continue on Mirror now.